In this video, I will show you how to upload photos and how to make contact sheets. So this is for your exposure scales experiment. So the first thing you will need to do, obviously, is shoot the images. So the first one will be aperture scale. So you're going to set your ISO to 400 and your shutter speed to 1/60. Make sure you are zoomed out all of the way. Set your aperture to 3.5. Compose the photo, focus it. Make sure focus is on manual for the duration of this shoot, um, and then change your aperture to 4.0 and keep going until you get up to 22. You should have 17 photos at that point. For the shutter speed scales, you set your ISO to 400, your aperture to 5.6, and you're going to go all the way down to 4 seconds for your shutter speed. Take the photo and then go all the way up to 1/2500. Okay? And then your ISO scales, you're setting shutter to 1/60 and aperture to 5.6, and then you are going to use all of the ISOs from 100 to 6400. And that you should have 7 photos. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to import your photos and make a contact sheet. So right now I'm putting my memory card into my computer, and the little SD card pops up in the upper right hand corner here. On your computer's photos will automatically open, but we don't want to use that program, so if that happens, just close that out, ignore it. Okay, you want to use Bridge. If you don't already have a shortcut to Bridge here, you can find it if you go to your Launchpad and scroll until you find the icon for Adobe Bridge, and it is a orangey yellow and black logo. Okay, so I have it here. When I open this up, you'll have favorites here. We need to set this up just like we did with the Finder here with our shortcuts to our folders, but for now we don't need to really worry about that. We'll set that up later. So you see this is my hard drive and this is my memory card. Okay, so I want to import the photos. I'm going to go to File, Get Photos from Camera. And then it's going to ask me if I want Photo Downloader to automatically launch whenever a memory card is connected. So I'm going to click on Don't Show Again, and yes. So this function here will automatically pop up every time that you put a memory card into your computer. So the first thing I like to do is click on Advanced Dialog, and that will actually give you thumbnails of all the images on your memory card. Once they're done loading, you'll actually see timestamps of when the images were taken. Okay? So the first and most important thing that you do, and you need to do this every single time that you upload your photos, is change the location where the images are going to be saved. So I'm going to click on Choose. So I'm doing this at home, so obviously I don't have, I'm not connected to the student network drive, but under Shared, which is not here either, but under Shared you would have your 2012 FS Students drive. You can click on that and then click on Students and then click on your student folder, or if you made your shortcuts here, you added the favorites with your student folder here, it would go here. Okay, so you would click on your student folder, and then in that folder you should have a folder called Digital Photo, so then you would click on that folder. So I'm just going to click on Documents for now, pretending that this is my student network folder. Okay, I'm going to click Open. I want to create a subfolder here. Okay, so I'm going to change it to custom name, and I'm going to title it Aperture Scales. Okay, I don't want to rename the files. I'll just leave them the way they are. Okay, and I'm going to click Delete Original Files. Okay, and I did all 3 of my scales in the same shoot here. You see I took a photo of something random in between, so this is the end of my aperture scales and then the beginning of my shutter speed scales. And then I don't know which one it is here, but I'll figure that out later. Okay, so right now I'm just going to put them all into that folder, just for demonstration's sake. You could make 3 separate folders and do 3 separate downloads, which we'll probably end up doing because you're going to shoot these on 3 separate days anyway. But for right now, I'm just going to put all of my images into the same folder. You can see that they're all checked here. Okay, if you wanted to only select a few of them or deselect some of them, what you can do is actually, I'm just going to click right in the gray area here and drag around here, and then I can uncheck this, and it automatically unchecks all of them or checks them. But it works because there's this blue line, so you know these 6 are selected, so whatever I do here, it will happen to all of them, okay? So which it should never happen, but if someone left a bunch of pictures on the memory card and you don't want to download those, that's an easy way to select a whole bunch and uncheck them. All right, I'm going to leave them all checked. So again, I changed my location to my student network folder and my digital photo subfolder in there. I'm going to create a subfolder, change it to custom name, and title whatever the project is that we're working on. Okay, so you want to keep all of your photos organized in different folders based on what project they are for. And make sure you click delete original files. And then you just click on get media. It's going to copy the files and then it asks if I want to delete them from the memory card. Yes, I'm good to go on that. Okay, fantastic. So then you wait a second, and now you can see up at the top here, it tells you the location. Ours would say computer 2012 FS students and all of your information here. Okay, so that's how to get your files, your photos off of your memory card and into your student network drive. Okay, so I think this is actually the same photo. It is. Okay, so I mentioned metadata in class. That's down here, the lower right-hand corner. And this tells you all sorts of information about the image, and we can customize this to include additional image information if we want it to. But this tells you the file name, when it was taken, the size, the color profile, and then as the camera data. I shot it in manual. My ISO was set to 800. My shutter speed was 1/60, and my aperture was 3.5. It tells me what kind of lens I used. It tells me my flash didn't fire. Okay, so it tells you all this information. Okay, so I'm going to select the images. So I just held the shift key down and clicked to the end here. So there's 17 items selected. So this is my aperture scales. I'm going to make a contact sheet now of just my aperture scale. So I'm only selecting the aperture images. So I'm going to go up to Tools, Photoshop, Contact Sheet 2, and this is going to automate all of the images into a contact sheet. So you want to make sure that your files are selected through Bridge. You're going to change it to 8x10. We're going to go across first, use auto spacing. So we have 17 files, which is a prime number, right? So no good numbers to use for that. So I'm going to just round up to 18. So I will do 3 columns and 6 rows. Okay, so 3 times 6 is 18, right? So I know my 17 files will fit there, and they will be nice and organized, okay? So we don't need to use a file name as a caption, so we're going to deselect that. In the future, you may want to use a file name, and we'll talk about that when it's appropriate. Okay, so you always want to change your rows and columns based on how many images you have to make a contact sheet. If you shot 24 images, you might do 4x6. If you shot 25 images, you do 5x5. If you shot 28, maybe you would also do, round up to 30 and do 5x6. Whatever works for the amount of images you've taken. If you've taken more than 30, you probably need to do multiple contact sheets. Okay, click OK. And then Photoshop will put them all into the same document in file name order. And sometimes it takes a little while. So then you would also do this with your shutter speed images and your ISO images. The ISO is only going to be 7 images, so you could do like 2x4. Okay, and then this nicely organizes your images so that you can see exactly what happens when you leave your shutter speed the same in each picture and your ISO the same in each picture, only changing the aperture. And you can see that the aperture that was open the widest gradually went down to the smallest aperture, letting in the least amount of light, and you can see that image is basically black. Okay, so at this point you would go to File, Save As, and you would click on this down arrow to get to your other options here. You would click on My Folder and the Final Projects folder, and you would title it your last name, Aperture, and you would change that to, a JPEG. Okay? And again, making sure that it's in the Final Projects folder. Like I said, I don't have access to those folders right now, so for demonstration purposes, just ignore that. But again, it would be under Melchione Digital, and then Final Projects 1718. And then you would just hit save. And you can drag this up to 12 so it's a large file and hit OK. And then you would do the same for the other images. So this is for shutter speed. So let me figure out, this changes shutter. Okay, there, that's the end of my shutter speed one. So I'm going to go here, hit Shift and select Tools, Photoshop, Contact Sheet 2. So it says 18 files are selected, so my 3x6 will work. And hit OK. Okay, so here you can see this image was shot at 4 seconds. The shutter was open for 4 whole seconds. The next one is also 4. Sorry. Okay, and then this is 2, 1, a half a second, a quarter of a second, an eighth of a second, 15th of a second, so on and so forth. Okay? So I go back to Photoshop. Oops. And File, Save As. And change the file format down here to JPEG and hit Save. And OK. And I'm going to go back again to Bridge. Okay, and then here starts my ISO scales. So here is the beginning of that. Okay, it says 7 items are selected. So again, Photoshop, Contact Sheet 2. And here, because I only have 7 files selected, I would probably do 2x4. And there you have it. File Save As, ISO, JPEG, save. So here you can see exactly what happens when you leave two elements of the exposure triangle the same and only change one. You can see exactly what happens to your images. All right, and that does that. So thanks for watching, and have fun with this experiment.